And I believe I learn more from my failures than from my successes. If I'm not learning, I'm not growing. And if I'm not growing, I'm dying. So stop dying, start living. Business is not for everybody. Business is for people who want to perhaps grow and be okay with the idea of working really hard and being okay to not win immediately.
Hello and welcome. Today, I'm speaking with a very successful serial entrepreneur, originally from the UK, but who is currently based here in Thailand. He is the founder of 3 companies, one of which he has already sold. His first company was called Spicy Hen, which was the UK's largest dance-based hen party company. His second company is called Goodman Lantern, which is a B2B content marketing agency with clients around the world, where he is currently the CEO. And his third company is called AI First Mindset, which is an AI consultancy where he is also currently the CEO. He is the author of 3 books on artificial intelligence. He's touring globally, doing workshops and talks on AI, and is currently working on his PhD in artificial intelligence. And finally, as if that's not enough, he is also currently the president of EOBM, which is Entrepreneurs Organization in the Bangkok Metropolitan Chapter. Welcome, Raj.
Good to be here. Thank you for the lovely introduction there.
Wow, that is a CV. You're a busy guy. Thanks very much, actually, for coming out and taking the time to meet with me.
Absolute pleasure. Noel, when you said the idea of doing a podcast with you, I'm like, why not? I'll love the opportunity.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. And so we've had a couple of conversations in the recent past, and I've been really curious about your background and your backstory. You've had multiple startups, sold one already. You're doing really well with a couple others. And I really wanted to just kind of get an idea of, how did these businesses come about? What was the path? What was the story? How did you first think about it, or how did they come to your mind? That kind of stuff. And I also want to touch on a couple of themes, 2 themes particularly. One is mentorship, and the other is fear of failure. I'm really curious about those 2 topics, getting your take on it.
Absolutely. Well, let me kind of rewind back sort of 20-ish years back when I was still a young lad, a little bit adventurous, very foolish. And I loved the experience of just doing what I did then. And that's when I actually embarked on my PhD. So I was born in Kuwait to Indian parents, and then I moved to the UK sort of 20 something years back, and that became home for me. And it was where I kind of gained, who I am today. So when people say, are you Raj? I'm like, no, I'm Raj 2.0, because the 1.0 was born in Kuwait and wasn't the same way as I'm today. So this is Raj 2.0, and Raj 2.0 was born in the UK. So absolutely correct in the way you kind of articulated that. But so I was born in an Indian family where it's all about education and academics, right? You're always studying, working hard, cramming stuff, right? The best path I could have gone on to, based on my parents, was that I would probably end up being a banker, back of the office, most likely, not in front office for sure. Sit back, program and code. And from a really early age, that wasn't me. I knew that very, very clearly. That wasn't me at all. And I always wanted to say to myself, Raj, you can do better. But somehow the other didn't get the opportunity in that close environment I was in. And so when I moved to the UK to do my university, that's when I became who I wanted to become. And, I saw the opportunity to try different things, experiment, learn, be myself, express myself. First thing I did was I started on a computer system engineering bachelor degree in just computer science and hardware, but didn't have enough cash to run my life. So I was working in the labs, research labs, every evening from afternoon, 4 o'clock till about midnight or 1 a.m. I'll work really hard and then gain my experience in computer science. And then fast forward a little bit, I started the research guys love my work ethic and my ability to do research. I play video games, and I absolutely dislike the bots and how they behave like robots and not human beings. So their PhD to help build a better video game, basically. And that became the study of AI. which I began 20 years back. I still haven't finished it yet. I need to go back and finish my PhD. But 20 years in AI. And back then I started a startup, which was in social media, which didn't go to plan. But then I started my next company, which was hen parties. And we can jump on that hen party company. I was okay to try and fail. It was just part of who I became, because my ambitions were much bigger. I came up from a very humble, nimble family, and we didn't have that kind of cash, but I was ambitious. My goal was to kind of have funny. I look back at it, I laugh. My ambition was to have one ice cream. If I can afford one ice cream per day, and that's the best ice cream in Brighton in the UK, then I'm doing okay. That's my bar. I smashed the bar pretty quickly the first 2 weeks. So I'm like, okay, bigger goal. So okay, I can afford my living. Then I can live a better lifestyle. I can go out every week, and just became bigger and better. And so that kept me pushing me further. So I met this guy. He used to be a very good friend of mine. He taught me salsa dancing, and I'm like, hey, George, this is great. What do you do otherwise when you're not doing this thing? Like, I do hen parties. What's that? It's bachelorette parties. It's a big part of the British culture. When women go out for their bachelorette parties in the UK, 60% of them would do a hen party with a dance lesson. So he would teach them dances. And I'm like, okay, well, can I help you? And he's like, yeah, I can't market it. Can you help me marketing it? I'm like, yeah, I can build you a website. So I built him a website. Within a few days, it started ranking really well. Started getting a lot of leads come through. And fast forward from 1 or 2 to 3 dance lessons or dance types in Brighton alone in the UK, we became the UK's largest dance-based hen party company, which expanded across Europe. We were doing all different dance styles, restaurant tours, bar tours, accommodation. At one point, I think I was doing about 20 different groups with about 15 to 18 average number of hens in any party across the UK. So it became something that was humongous in terms of what, from where you began.
Okay, so you had a partner. It sounds like his name was George.
Yes.
So George was he was your friend, was giving you dance lessons.
Yeah.
And then he was already doing something in the hen party business or the bachelorette party business.
Yes.
And at the time, how old were you?
I was 20 something, maybe 25, 26.
So mid 20s. Were you working or doing anything at that time? Did you have a job? What kind of income were you receiving, or what were you doing?
Yeah, so a great question, actually. So by then, I realized that my other company, which was a social media software company, wasn't going anywhere. I shut it down. And I started working for a Spanish company as their chief innovation officer across in Madrid. Lived in Brighton, but worked in Madrid. So Monday to Friday in Madrid, and then back over the weekend.
So you're commuting.
So I'm commuting back and forth constantly.
Working for another social media company?
No, it was a technology company servicing the insurance and telecom market.
So this was a job you got after you shut down your, I guess, safe to say, failed company?
Yeah.
Was that your first startup, maybe?
Yes,
first startup. First startup was to fail.
Yeah.
How long did it take to fail?
It took me about 3 years.
3 years. So you were in it for 3 years.
Yeah.
Was it did it hit you right away, or was it kind of like a long, painful kind of like dragging feet type of business?
It was a bit of both, actually. I just say in business, it's like fast and slow at the same time. Yeah. So in one way, it was really fast because I built this business because I met somebody in the UK who was from the US who told me about MySpace and how big MySpace was, which for people who don't know is the elder people's Facebook.
The predecessor to Facebook.
That's it. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I built a MySpace clone literally in like 9 days. I coded the whole thing up.
So is this like a British clone version, sort of, or?
Yeah. So I built a British clone of like MySpace,
wow.
which I started in Brighton first to get talented people to come on there, musicians, singers, that sort of stuff.
Okay.
Built that, no traction. I asked around, no help. Finally, I knocked at a few doors, and one of them was a government subsidy to do an MBA. So I did a crash course MBA at the University of Cranfield, which is in the Midlands, and I learned about marketing.
So this was while the business was already launched, you were getting your MBA, so you're just kind of like getting an education in school, but also trying to figure out how to navigate this new company. this clone of MySpace.
Yeah, I would go every 2 weeks to Cranfield, which is like 3 hours from Brighton.
Okay.
And then I'll just work other days, and I would do these odd jobs like building software, building websites, that sort of stuff. Sometimes working in a restaurant. I did security jobs. Then all kind of,
All technology-based stuff that you would be contracted to do for,
Yes.
for companies.
Yes.
Websites, this, that.
Yeah. And also, but also sometimes when there was no work, I would just do like, sort of, just minimum wage jobs. So I worked as a security guard, for example, for a few months, and I once worked as a cleaner as well. So I've done all these kind of jobs. But actually, that made me really appreciate the people who work for us, right? We often forget about the people who serve us in restaurants, the staff working in as gatekeepers and stuff. We just think, why do we care? We got all the cash, we got all the reputation. Why do we care? But actually, these people, are very important to our lives. And, these people will be somebody who will go up there and start their own business one day, and they'll help the economy. So I have a lot of respect for people who are, for lack of a better word, bottom of the food chain.
And so you're getting this MBA, businesses, you're trying to build this business. And then at what point was it like, you know what, this is just maybe not going to work? Or was there like a point, was it obvious to you? Or 3 years is a long time to kind of fail.
Yeah, it is and it is not, because like the hustle doesn't stop, right?
Yeah.
You're constantly hustling, right? So after I did the MBA, I learned a bit more about marketing. Now a geek knows about marketing. That's very powerful.
Yes.
So I went and raised some cash. I got a new CEO in.
How did you raise cash?
So looking to I'm finding new job roles as a programmer, doing different programming languages. And one of the guys I met, I said to him, listen, in my evenings and weekends, I do this other project, which is a MySpace clone. Can you help me with some advice? And he's like, yeah, I'll love that. And so his name was Jack Farrell. He came on board to help me with some advice, and he said, "Oh, I have a business partner who's an investor, and he can come in and put some money in. Just meet him for a drink." And we had a chat. And that evening, we agreed to invest about, I think, a valuation of about £1 million. He put about 100,000, something like that.
Just like that.
Just like that, yeah.
Amazing.
So one meeting.
You raised £100,000, I guess.
Dollars, yeah.
$100,000.
Equivalent.
10% sounds like, roughly.
Yes, it was about that much. Yes, yeah.
So valuation of $1 million. So that must have been hugely encouraging. So, okay, where did it go from there?
Well, from there, you would imagine that I'll go and start to build more code, but no, being silly and stupid, I went and got myself an office space. Got an office space. Overhead straight away, racking in the expenses. And so that was not ideal, but I think at that point, there was a bit of arrogance in me, because I come from like nothing and I got something, and I'm like, oh, okay, no, I know it all. What I need to do now is just go and get more deals, and I will be a rich fella, and I'll sell this business, and I'll get a few million in the account, and I can retire. It doesn't work that way at all.
So the 100,000, how long did that last?
Not very long. Maybe 1.5 years, probably.
How long?
Yeah, 1.5 years.
Years. And was there any more potential investors, or was he going to potentially invest more? Was that an option or possibility? Or
yeah, there were some other investors who came in as well. One of the professors of MBA came in as an investor as well.
what should he put in?
He put in about $5,000, not a lot of money.
$5,000? Okay.
Yeah, not a lot of money, but his experience and his kudos and the cloud he had around him was really helpful.
Very helpful.
And also learned a lot from it. But I think overall, it was a good experience.
Yeah.
And I believe I learned more from my failures than from my successes. So I learned a lot from it. And that was the one time where I learned that if I'm not learning, I'm not growing. And if I'm not growing, I'm dying. So stop dying, start living.
Okay.
And then it became about having a learner's mindset.
So the company closed down eventually after 3 years, and then you met George.
Yes.
In Brighton, where you were living.
Yes.
That's where you moved to from Kuwait?
Yes, I moved to Brighton for university, yes.
So, okay, so you came in, and your parents stayed back in Kuwait?
Yes, that's right.
Okay, do you have siblings?
Yes.
How many?
Just the one, my sister.
Okay.
And then she was in University of Nottingham. She went there for her master's degree in architecture.
Okay.
So she was there as well. So.
Okay, so you meet George, get some dance lessons. He sort of inspires you, it sounds like, about this hen party, bachelorette party concept.
Yeah.
And the two of you then did what? Formed a company, 50-50 partners? Or how was the logic on that?
Yeah. So my advice to myself was don't start a company unless you have some money in your bank and don't get an office space straight away.
Yeah.
So minimal expenses, build the website myself, build all the design myself, service all the emails myself, calls, all that was done by me and my wife as well. My girlfriend then, not my wife. We got so involved in this business. 3 of us got involved.
So she helped with the business. And then what was George's responsibility?
He would deliver the dance lessons and the hen parties, actually the hen parties itself.
Interesting. So he was kind of like the front man. And you were kind of the tech
back end,
behind the scenes infrastructure guy.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But then as I learned the hard way, that sometimes, you got to choose your partners carefully. And I love George to bits. We're still great friends. But, it came to a point where it was all about the money initially for him because he had the demand and need for it. Whereas I was thinking about equity and long-term partnerships. Eventually after a few months, he decided that it was not for him and he would still deliver work for me, but there'd be a fee attached to it. Which is fair. So at some point I became the front end and the back end.
So then you had an agreement as a partnership.
Yeah.
And then was there sort of a buyout of him or he just kind of exited, walked into the sunset, or how did that pan out?
Yeah, so we actually paid him to buy shares out.
Okay.
And then I got one of my other mates from university, Alex, who eventually was the person who bought the company from me. She and her family were really involved in, growing opportunities across the world. She's from the UK and from Egypt, and it was a great opportunity for her to get involved in the business. So I brought her in to help me with sales and marketing a little bit, and so she got involved. And
Did she come in as a partner or just as a contract employee, sort of? Or
initially as a contractor, there was no employees for the company, and keeping it nimble and lean has been my philosophy.
Yeah.
Like never spend a lot of cash initially, just be with the cash. So she came in as a contractor, helping with marketing and sales. And now remember, I have a full-time job in Spain. Who know that I have a company which does hen parties.
So you're still commuting back and forth between Spain while running this hen party. Now, without a partner, you have 100% equity.
Yes.
With your girlfriend, she's helping you.
And we split up. So my wife now, but my girlfriend, then we split up.
Okay.
So I was now basically running the entire show.
You're a one-man show.
Literally.
Full-time job, building a business. Wow. Okay. So that must have been an adventure.
Yeah. Really fun.
At the time,
yeah.
What was the greatest challenge you were experiencing at the time?
Well, lack of time. I mean, I was literally sleeping 4 hours most evenings, like at night. I would take a nap on the train or the plane, and that would be part of what I would do. And, it was clear that there's an appetite for this, right? There's a big appetite for a organized hen party. It's organized by the best friend or best mate. They are busy people. How can they find the venues, get the dance instructors, get the restaurants, the accommodation? It's a big pain point. So we began doing this, and process I met a few other people who became our B2B channel. So that we sold to other agencies who resell our dance lessons to them. Right. Then we had cocktail making. We had Butler and the Buff, which basically are muscular men, who are topless and just go and wear a bow tie and do dance and serve them meals and drinks, and they loved it. It was really, really amazing.
So what you did was essentially you found the niche.
Yeah,
that was like there was no company doing this already. That's pretty amazing. And you said, was it outside? Did you expand beyond the UK, or was it just in the UK?
Eventually, we expanded to Europe and stuff, but I was less involved in that part. But then it was already sold. I think by the time I left, it was 20 to 22 different cities, 35 different products across different geographies. So imagine every kind of dance lesson possible, all these cocktail making lessons, meals, Indian themes, British themes, Latin themes. I mean, you name it. We literally had everything.
So I'm curious about you just said you exited. So this is the part I really want to understand. So how many years were you in this business before you exited? How long was it?
It was about 2.5 years. So again, very similar pattern to my previous business. The reason I exited really was that I got married. Now I have a wife, a full-time job as CEO of the Spanish company, which I moved away from innovation to CEO, and I was doing 110 different flights per year. So I was heading UK and Asia. So I had to be in the UK every couple of weeks and Asia across in Philippines, India, Hong Kong, and it was just impossible. So I said, okay, I'm going to start this business.
Okay, so how did that exit happen? What was the conversation? Like, buy me out, or how did that take place?
Absolutely. Well, if I had the chance, if I could go back in time, I would have kept the business to myself. I would have never sold it. But I didn't know about how to run lean teams and delegate. Something I learned later on in life. But delegation was something which I didn't know much about. I was just doing everything myself and getting teams involved to do certain things. But delegation is something which I've learned recently, which has been amazing for my career. But back then, I didn't have that. So I was like, okay, I'll build this company up, single-man show, solopreneur, and then exit it. The reality was it wasn't easy to sell my baby, which I built over the last couple of years. But then I spoke to my friends and said, hey, listen, guys, I have this company doing good revenue. You can have this company. If you want it, I'll ask you for a small fee, just to kind of I feel like I've sold this company for something, and you run the company. I'll keep some shares in the company with you, and we'll see how it goes. And so I spoke to 2-3 of my friends, Alex, who was the person who bought the company, and she bought it for a reasonable, I don't want to disclose the amount, but it was a reasonable amount.
So you were happy with that?
I was okay with it, yeah.
Okay.
I was comfortable with it. And
she was the one that came in, was kind of like the person who would be able to scale it the best?
Yes.
That was kind of what you liked about her?
Yes, and also she had a good marketing and sales background.
Right.
She could really help scale this further. But I learned that it was not easy because I think as a solopreneur, I didn't have documentation. I didn't have a good process in place for scaling the business up. So that was my challenge at my end. I didn't scale it up properly and didn't have that proper documentation in place. So if I could go back in time, first of all, I will delegate more. I will definitely delegate it to more people. And we'll also have proper documentation in place, better processes in place so that it ran by itself.
So documentation for processes,
That's
kind of
right.
just being more organized, essentially.
Effectively, yes.
Which is not easy to do.
No.
Yeah, but she seemed to have a lot of, I guess, probably more experience in that than you did, I would imagine.
She did. I would say she had more experience selling than I did.
Gotcha. So she was better in sales.
She was a better salesperson than me. I was definitely 100%.
And outside that immediate circle, back to the theme that I was talking about earlier, mentorship. Did you have any mentors on the business side during these times when you were trying to get this business off the ground with George, or just anybody outside helping you, like just as an advisor?
Well, yes, I had a couple of people. One of them was the professor of entrepreneurship at the university who came on board. There were others as well who helped me. My business partner then, Jack, who unfortunately we lost him a few years back, was a mentor to me as well. A lot of great people came in and helped me out. I feel though that at that point my mind was a bit more closed. It wasn't that open. I wish I would have been more open like I am today and be a sucker for learning. Mm-hmm. If that was the case at that time, I would have grown much faster.
Gotcha. You felt like maybe you knew it all already or something?
I think there was a bit of arrogance there, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's all right.
Unfortunately. I think I was
business.
Yeah, young and silly,
Okay. Right, but you learned some lessons from that. Wow, okay. So you exited this business, but you kept some shares, which meant, were you receiving income for a while from it as well? Do you still have, no, you don't have shares now anymore. That was long. What year did that happen, that transaction that you were saying that you got out?
It would have happened in 2014, I would have thought.
Okay, 2014. So you got out of that mostly, and then you were full-time with the Spanish company that you were then working for.
Yeah.
How long were you working for that company?
I worked for them more or less 5 years. So I worked with them solidly for 3 years, and then I continued a contract with them for another 1.5 to 2 years. So, I mean, all my life, I've just been working really hard. So, if I have any spare time, I was starting a business, doing your contract. I'm really hungry, right? It's very obvious. I still believe I'm very hungry.
Yeah.
And the way I thought about growing is just doing more. which I now know is not the right way approach. It's about working smarter, not harder.
Smarter and harder. That's right.
So I hopefully now work smarter than working really, really hard, which I still work fairly hard, but smarter is is a key.
You finished work at the Spanish company, and then what happened next from there? What did you do after that?
So with the Spanish company, we went through a very awesome growth. When I joined them, they were doing 7.5 million. By the end of it, they got merged. We helped them to do an M&A. The company was doing 45 million revenue.
Okay.
So, really helped them grow a lot. I actually physically built their products. We're basically doing technology assistance services. So say, for example, you have a problem with your iPhone, your iPad, your PC. We can help you remotely with a remote login to your computer or through a phone call. So we had thousands of people in the call center helping you out. And I actually build these products for them. So I built an iPhone product for them, Android product for them, smartphone offering for them. Because when I joined the company, they had just launched the iPhone, which was actually smart. So we started doing the remote support service for them. Offering was amazing. It went really well. I know I went to sell to a lot of these big telecom companies across in Spain, Latin America, UK markets. It was really awesome, to see a young, 20-year-old going to these big companies and doing the sales with the salespeople was amazing.
That's a great experience.
Absolutely.
And so, but why did you leave? What happened?
Well, two things. One was that it was doing a lot for me. 110 flights per year was a lot of traveling. So
what does that come to? It's like one every 3 days.
Yeah.
One every 3 or 4 days.
Yeah.
And this is all Europe, or is it going?
No, Asia and Europe, back and forth.
So
Back and forth.
That's exhausting.
I remember one time I did this where I was like, I had my dinner meeting in New Delhi, did breakfast meeting at Heathrow Airport, then did a lunch meeting at Barajas Airport in Madrid, then evening snack at Barcelona, and then flew back to India from there.
All on the same day.
All on the same day.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of hard to go long time with that. Longevity is not there. So you decide that's it. I can't. This is too much.
Well, that was just one of the things. But the other thing was like, why am I helping them grow so much? Why can't I do that for myself? And a big part of that was telling good stories. One thing good about B2B is, and it's not as well documented as B2C, is storytelling goes a long way. Tell great stories and really brand the company as a leader is a big opportunity to sell more and sell better. So I'm like, okay, if I do that in B2B for this company, do it for other people as well. Let me start a company which helps people brand and market their offerings with content marketing.
So that was the boo.
That was light bulb moment for me.
Wow.
Yeah.
How old were you? Do you remember that?
31, 32?
31. So you had a ton of experience at this point with this business from Spain. You learned a lot. The transition from leaving that company to starting your own, doing something similar, very challenging, or how was that for you?
I thought it'd be very easy.
Okay.
It wasn't. It wasn't at all. It was really hard. The first year, I remember it. I was thinking, how can I get the first customer? Luckily, the first customer was a Spanish company themselves, so they were happy to hire me as a contractor.
So the company you left became the first client.
Yes.
Gotta love that.
Yeah, absolutely. Some hours every week for them. Yeah. So they were my first customers.
They were clearly supportive.
Yes.
That's great.
Yeah.
Big help.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Okay. It was a clear ROI for them. They knew I could do something. I could help them with something.
Clearly, yeah. It's low risk for them because they knew exactly what they were going to get.
Exactly.
And then, how do you get the next client?
The next client, as it happens, was a bit harder because I wasn't sure where to find them. But then I started to ask around, and I asked them where do they find their team members. And at that point, my wife had a challenge because she couldn't get her visa for the UK. So to move back to Asia from the UK to be with her, and we chose India for a little bit. So I lived in India for about 3 years. It was really fun because now I'm in India. I have to find companies who can pay me okay money, and that wouldn't happen in Asia at that time. So I thought, okay, how can I work remotely? So I started asking people, hey, where do you find your teams, remote teams from? And they all went like Upwork, Back then, there was a different name for it, and they said I think it was called Odesk. It was a Fiverr thing that back then it began, and people per hour. There were all these different companies there. So I just joined all of them, and what I offered them was a research and marketing. I said I could do great research for you, marketing for you, I can make presentations for you, whatever you need, ask me. I'll help you with anything. So I was just like literally, guns for hire. I can do whatever you want me to do in B2B. I've got a lot of experience in B2B.
Was this the start of Goodman Lantern? So this was the beginning of that company.
Absolutely.
What year was that you started that?
2014, 2015. So as I finished with the Spanish company, I began this.
Straight.
Yeah.
And did you name it Goodman Lantern right out the gates there?
Yes.
Okay.
So the story behind Goodman Lantern is a bit bizarre. So Goodman Lantern is a term used by Indian Sikh families or West Indian. So if you look at India, the northwest side is called Punjab, where the Sikhs are from. It's half of Punjab sits in Pakistan, another half sits in India. I don't know how, and a lot of different stories about it, but grandparents and elderly people call their kids, or they said, Goodman the Lantern, you're Goodman the Lantern, because if you're a good boy, you're Goodman the Lantern. If you're a bad boy, you have a different name. So my granddad, my mother's side, used to call me Goodman Lantern all the time. Like I was his Goodman Lantern all the time. And so we were very close. And then one fine day he passed away. And it was, in his memory that I kept this name. And later on, I came to know that it was basically a guy called Goodman from the UK who was blind and had a lantern in his hand, not for himself, but the people who were lost in the forest, to show them some light. In many ways, Goodman Lantern also shows our customers the light, the right direction.
Yeah.
So it worked really well from the team, worked very well. And,
Perfect.
And that's how it formed.
Wow, so that's where the name came from.
Absolutely.
I'm curious about that.
Yeah.
And so you're in India for 3 years, or you don't even know you're going to be there for 3 years, but you end up being there for 3 years. And you're kind of forced to figure out a way to build a company that has clients not in the country that you're in, but outside of that country.
Yeah.
That's a challenge.
Absolutely.
So you're now seeking to build a team through these services, and then you start building the team because you're the sales guy, I imagine.
Yeah.
So how are you making your sales pitches? To who? How?
Yeah, great question. I was at that point, again, back to my spicy hen days. I was selling, delivering, doing everything. But now I knew a bit better, I hope. And I was, okay, I'm going to get team members to deliver. So I would hire people on Upwork who would be outsourced to in the Philippines, for example, or India. And I will pitch to them as a British company because I'm a British company. I'm registered in the UK.
Yeah.
So I could do that. I would do calls with them on Skype. Now, obviously, you have Zoom, but back there was Skype. And I would just do calls with customers and say, listen, what's your challenge? So they'll articulate the challenges on Upwork or Fiverr, not Fiverr, but Upwork, and pay per people or people per hour. People per hour was the one. And we would just basically use that as a way to get the leads to come in. So now you get leads, they will just put their challenges and they'll ask for freelancers. And so I'll apply it to them as a freelancer and say, listen, my name is Raj. I own a British company. I've done a lot of work in B2B. This is my CV. This is my LinkedIn profile. I can help you out. I can help you end to end. And so I start to find a few companies like that. And as it happens, some of these companies were big companies who were looking for a cheaper outsource option.
So you were basically marketing yourself on these outsourcing companies as an individual or as a company?
As a company.
As a company.
Because I had now freelancers available in other locations like Philippines and India and anywhere else.
And so if some work came in, you would handle some, but then you could also pass it on to these other folks on your team. They're contractors, but sort of on your team.
Yeah.
Right? And so you're building up some of these clients now.
Yeah.
In the early days, how did that feel? Was that exciting?
It was amazing. It was amazing. Actually, what my job was to make a difficult task simplified and then distribute amongst a lot of people.
How did you determine how to charge these guys? Or how much to charge them? Like, was it an hourly kind of rate or something like that?
It would be a mix of both. There was some hourly rates. There were some sort of fixed rates. I had a minimum I want to make per month just to kind of prove the point that it works to my wife. I'm like, this works, right?
You had to prove it to her.
I'll prove it to you that it works, right? I'm gonna show you I make the first $1,000 from it. And she's like, let's see, I'll give you 3 months, right? And so within 3 months, a hook or crook, I did some really bizarre research projects, for example, to find all the golf associations in the UK, for example. It took me, I remember the whole weekend, I worked 11, 12 hours on a Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and by Monday I had the whole Excel sheet ready. Now I can just do it using AI, for example, right? But I wanted to prove a point that you can do this on your own if you choose to do so. So I kind of got the job in, did some work task myself, gave some of to my other team members in the Philippines. And I just kept growing my team in the Philippines and India as I was growing the customer base, right? I'll get projects in.
And the golf, you reached out to these golf associations to help them with some of their pain points? Or?
So this was a task which I received from somebody on Upwork.
Okay.
And they said, I want to find all the golf associations with their phone numbers and the email addresses, right?
Okay.
It was basically a Google search.
Just somebody to spend the time to do it. And then you did it for them and you charged them for it.
Yeah.
And that was your first client.
That was my first $100.
$100.
Apart from the Spanish company, obviously, which was paying me pretty all right.
So clearly that was the proof that there's something there that can be done.
Yeah, absolutely. In the first 3 months, we were doing $1,000 per month, which is a very small win, but proves the point. Then I began to really go after it. I started to find these customers on Upwork, talk to them. I was the only guy who would call them, say, listen, why don't we just give them the task via Upwork? Let's have a chat over Skype, and I'll have a chat with them, they understand what we do, and I just kept growing the business thereafter. So it just started to grow. From 1, we became 5 customers, then 10, then 20, then 100, 150, 300, and then I'm like, okay, now I need to really grow this company properly. Let's build the website properly. Let's do the SEO properly. The content which I was preparing, PDF files and YouTube videos, let's do this properly. So we start to expand that. And then I use my real skill, which is SEO. I've always been really good at SEO, which is search engine optimization. So I started to really rank that better. And again, I met most of my team members through Upwork initially, and then later on, recruit them through people who are already working with me. From India and Philippines, it grew. South Africa and the UK became pretty big. Then we started expanding the US market, Australian markets, Japanese markets, Singaporean markets. I mean, we never stopped.
Wow, so you were really building up these clients all around the world.
Yeah.
Do you remember any time where you were thinking fear of failure? Did that ever creep in at all?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think there were multiple times. I remember one time, we were working with one company, one customer from very influential family stroke business. Majority of our business was coming from that particular entity. It was in the millions, and that was very scary.
Yeah.
Because if that ever falls, then business is going to be in jeopardy.
All your eggs are in one basket almost.
Pretty much, yeah.
So you had to diversify those clients.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We took the stance that we will service the customer as we always did, take care of the customer, but also expand further. And this time we'll expand in a sector where we can really grow further and not have a very micro niched approach or pigeonholed approach to ourselves. And that was a big change, because that customer could have been gone, could go anywhere, for example. So, and the client was actually really good. We actually grew really well with them. Again, 2-3 years of work with them as well. That happened in the past as well. I've had challenges with teams, for example, when you start to introduce a thing called EOS, Entrepreneurial Operating System, which is a process to run your company. It was very scary, because the EOS is like scaling up. It's a way to run your company's weekly, monthly, annual, 10-yearly plans, run your meetings. Many people don't like EOS in the company. And I had to let go of many people, or they left, or whatever happened. And that was very scary. It was like jumping off a cliff and having the bits of an aeroplane all unassembled and assembled on the way as you're jumping down the cliff, right?
You're down.
And it was so scary, but got in a very good friend of mine to become the COO, and that has done really well for the company. And now it's more about growing together. Mm-hmm. It's about bringing people in who want to grow as well, but also helping people shape their futures as well.
And so you're currently the CEO, but how big is your team now? How big is your staff?
It's about 70 people.
70 people?
Yeah.
And I understand that the majority of these people are female?
Yes.
You're a proponent of female, I guess, staff and employee.
Yes.
What's the backstory on that?
When my wife and I was staying in the UK after we moved from India to London, my wife went through a terrible time with cancer. She almost lost her life twice because of chemo. And it was really hard.
Wow.
And I have a picture of me sitting in the hospital, my laptop there, where I had my wife, obviously she lost all her hair, for example, and, a drip being put into her, and, she's smiling, I'm smiling. And inside me, I said to myself that, it's not about the money. It's not only about like making money for yourself or for your company or for your loved ones, but also giving back as well. And if Sue makes it through, I'll make sure that life is about giving back as well. And that was a very difficult but a turning point for my career as well.
Oh, pretty good.
So yeah, fast forward, I start to think about where is my legacy, what I'm going to give back to the world I live in. And I had a daughter, obviously my wife, my sister. And I thought to myself, especially in Asia, in Asian culture, in the past at least, women were not given the opportunity. How can I empower women, especially in technology and marketing, because that's still been a problem. And so I made a point to hire more women, actually train them if we have to bring them on and give them opportunities to shine. So today we hire 2%, 73% of our staff are women.
Very good.
And across the world, South Africa, UK, US, Philippines, Middle East, you name it, we hire people everywhere. And a big part of that are women, and mostly working in marketing and technology.
Wow. Okay. That's very inspiring. It's amazing. And I met Sue. Yeah. And so she looks incredibly healthy and happy. That's fantastic.
Thank you.
That's good news. What do you love most about your business? What do you like the most?
For Goodman Lantern, I would say the awesome element is to hear the clients say how much they love working with the team. We go above and beyond to service them, to take care of them, keep track of what's happening in the market. We have very niche industry-specific expertise in a company in B2B, from military to technology to AI to manufacturing. To bring these people in and to serve the customers like we do and to hear them say how happy they are, it's incredible. I have a weekly meeting with my team and they tell me this new brand who's just joined us, who I use myself on a daily basis, or who I know because one of my friends, works with them, for example. It's a big deal. And so when I go back home, I tell, hey, Sue, you know what? This is so company which we always get stuff from. They're new customers of ours. Yeah. She's like, oh, that's awesome. So that is a great win. And teams being happy and they're growing and hitting my goals from my giving back opportunities is also really awesome.
And so how long have you had the business now? Is it 10 years now?
Yeah, 10 years.
10 years. What do you like the least about it?
What I didn't like a lot about it in the past was that I was working so many hours in the business.
Yeah.
And with EOS, I've been able to delegate most of the tasks to somebody else. So they are growing. And so I'm able to work on the business, not in the business.
That is a challenge. Entrepreneurs really struggle with delegating.
Yeah.
Nobody can do it as good as me.
Yeah.
And if I want something done, I got to do it myself. And that mentality restricts you.
Yeah.
And so in order to you got to let go.
Yeah.
And then trust others.
Yes.
And it's been my experience that oftentimes they'll do a better job than you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then when you can figure that out, that's a game changer, right?
Absolutely. I remember reading this book by Tim Ferriss, 4 Hours Work Week, which is like a Bible for many people.
Yeah.
And in that book, he talks about this thing called DEA, delegate, which is delegate tasks to other people, eliminate, that's the E, or automate. So everything you do in life, just do DEA to it. And
nice.
And we'll talk maybe later on about this A part, which has become automate or AI for me now.
Yeah. So you're CEO, but your hours are a little bit more, I guess, palatable, more life sustaining for you.
100%. So I do an 1 hour and a half every week on Goodman Lantern.
Okay.
That's my commitment to it.
So that's about it. And then everybody else kind of has their roles, and the company is just running on its own.
It's growing on its own, yeah.
Growing on its own,
yeah.
Which is even more amazing.
Yeah.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
And you've been able to kind of spend time in other ventures.
Yes.
And the most is the next one after that, is that the AI first mindset? Is
Yes.
that the company you started the most recently?
That's right. Yeah.
Tell us about AI mindset first.
Yeah, absolutely. So here I am, delegated all my tasks to team members in Goodman Lantern, and now I'm literally like
Nothing to do.
nothing to do. I'm playing paddle and suck at paddle as well. And it's like,
You've actually beaten Tim Ferriss, because you had a 1.5 hour work week.
yeah,
So he was the 4 hours. So you actually just kind of one-upped him on
yeah.
that.
Thank you, Tim. yeah.
That's good.
No, I'm very happy that I achieved that somehow. I think when it comes down to delegation, it came like suddenly I was literally looking at my calendar, like meetings. It just went down like a opposite of a exponential growth. It went like literally just fell off the cliff for me. I had no tasks to do. I had no meetings to go to. I was just literally at home. And I don't think my wife wanted me at home either. So I was
job.
go get a job, Raj, do something else with your life, right? So I started working with EO, which is a charity, it stands for Entrepreneurs Organization. Started doing, serving on the board. I would do events for EO in Bangkok. I would travel, meet friends. I would go and play paddle, or like paddle tennis all the time. I was so bored. I didn't know what to do. And then I went for a lunch with 2 EO members from EO Bangkok. And we were just talking about life and just chit chat. And then one of the members talking about like how AI is really growing. And I'm like, yeah, it's growing.
For those who may not be familiar with it, and this is a very important topic I wanted to also talk about, is how you and I met.
Yes.
Which is through EO.
Yes.
Which is Entrepreneurs Organization. I do want to just kind of explain to it. You're the president now. How would you explain to the audience what EO is about?
As they say, as an entrepreneur, it's very lonely at the top. It's very lonely at the top. I felt that in London as well. I was like, it's a big city, a lot of people, but whom do you talk to? You can't talk to your friends because they don't understand they're doing a job. You can't talk to your spouse. You can't talk to your family because they don't understand the pains you're going through as an entrepreneur. And that was something that I felt deeply. I was feeling lonely. I was feeling that I didn't have people to really help me, advise me. The advisors were good, but the advisors were not as detailed as I want them to be. So then I heard about EO through a customer of mine in Houston. He said, hey, Raj, you should join EO. It will change your life. I'm like, okay, all right. And so
now you're open to ideas.
Yeah. Now I'm looking like, okay, well, listen, absolutely. I mean, I'll go check it out. So I went for a meeting with EO in London to hear about what EO is. Back then, I didn't even qualify for EO. I was an EO accelerator, EOA. Mm-hmm. And so I went there, and my client told me, Raj, join EO. So I went there with a check. I sat down there, and they were giving this whole spiel about EO and how EO changes life. You can have a whole community of people being your company's board directors, your advisors. And I'm like, I'm sold. Here's my check. Oh, no, you don't want to check right now. Have a meal, have a drink, and then I'll email you tomorrow, and you can just pay for it if you qualify. So I'm like, okay, that's great. So next day, they emailed me, and I signed up straight away, and I joined the EOA.
So explain qualify. What is it that you need to qualify? Because EO is a fantastic organization, and it changed my life.
Yeah.
Dramatically.
Yeah.
And I was a member in Hawaii, and now I'm a member here in Bangkok, and it's already affecting my life and impacting me in positive ways. Explain what you need to be able to qualify, because it's important to know, because this is what people should be thinking about. Figuring out a way to join a chapter in your city wherever you are, because EO is global. There's chapters in most cities around the world. And so talk more about the qualifications.
Absolutely. So there are about 18,500 members across the world.
How many?
18,500. So there's a lot of members there. It's just growing all the time. I think there are 50 plus countries around the world. It's a big organization. Yeah. The requirement to join EO is that you need to be doing $1 million plus revenue in USD. So $1 million plus USD revenue, plus a founder, co-founder, or major shareholder of a company. That's a requirement. But when I joined, I was not there yet.
You didn't qualify?
I was almost there, but I was not there.
But so now there's a second path that you can take with the...
Yes. So if you don't qualify for EO, and you're above $250,000 USD revenue, you can join a thing called EOA. EOA is a product of EO, which is not the main EO, but it's a way to accelerate your growth and grow you from under $1 million to $1 million USD within 2 years. And it has been a rocket ship for me. I mean, it really took me from under $1 million to $1 million in 1 year and 1 month. I scaled up very rapidly with it. I think we grew about 2.5x or 3x. As they say, EO is a gym, not a spa. The more you contribute to EO, the more you receive. And now I have this new mindset, which is like learner's mindset. I want to contribute and grow. And I asked somebody, how do I grow in EO? They're like, we're going to grow in EO, we're going to serve in EO. So I started serving on the board. EO is basically for people who want to learn and grow and meet peers from around the world in your chapter who can help you share ideas with you. So not advising you, but sharing ideas with you. You have a thing called forum, where non-competing people meet every month to discuss their bottom and top 1% or 5%. Stuff you can't talk to anybody else about. What your company, your spouse, your ups and downs in life, your personal challenges, for example. It really helps people to kind of become better individual in my experience, like it has probably for you as well.
You had a meeting with a couple of members. Was it here in Bangkok with a couple of members? And then that's where the idea spawned for First Mindset, your third company that you launched.
Yeah.
Can you talk about how that came about?
Yeah. Again, thanks to EO for all this. So I met a couple of people for lunch, and we were having some Thai lunch, and talking about how AI is growing so quickly. Yeah. Now, I'm aware of what's happening in AI. I'm keeping tabs on AI's progress. But when it becomes a mainstream thing is when you hear from people talking about it. And I'm like, okay, this is strange, because the same bit of research I did at university has been brought up again, but this time there's a compute power to run the algorithms. This is going to be big. So I started to experiment more further with AI, to learn more about what's happening in the AI world. And then one fine day, there's a thing called My EO, which is a casual meeting amongst your EO peers to have a lunch and talk about things. So I did a My EO on AI. And there were under 10 people who turned up from EO Bangkok to hear my AI talk over lunch. It went really well. I got like a 9.7 out of 10 from these under 10 people. Like, they loved my presentation and the practical applications of AI. So I was enthused by it. I'm like, oh, this is awesome. I love this. I love talking about AI. So I did that, and then I'm like, now what? I've done this. It went all right. I'm learning about AI so quickly. I'm practicing what I learned and researched before. So I approached a few of my friends in other EO chapters, and one of them was Dave Haidu from EO Vietnam. And I said to him, listen, I'll come to your chapter to do a talk on AI, and I'll do it for free. I'll just come to you. Just get me the tickets in a hotel. I'll come to you. We'll just hang out, and we'll just go for drinks and stuff, and we'll just do this for you. I went there. There were about 15 people who showed up, and it was the only event in the history of EO Vietnam which was scored 10 out of 10 by all the people sitting down.
Wow.
So I'm like, okay.
Well done.
Yeah. So that was it. Like, that is definitely a sign that this is something in this. We want to learn more. So then I approached other chapters across EO, started doing this stuff, and literally every chapter I'd go to, it'll be 9.6 or 9.7 plus. So between 9.6 and 10, I'll just get that kind of score every time. And then it became like from 15 to 30 to 50. Last time I did one for EO Malaysia, there were 175 people who showed up.
That's growing rapidly.
So it's absolutely massive.
And it's no longer just get me a flight and a hotel room.
It's not, unfortunately, for chapters.
Good. Very good.
Yeah. So now this year I'm doing about 40 workshops around the world, 15 different countries, 25 different cities. And yeah, I mean, just growing every day.
So you're back to flying every 3 days now? You happy about that?
Well, I mean, I think the flights love me, or I love the flights. I'm not sure which way it works, but yeah, I'm back flying again a lot.
And so how many of these are you planning? You said you're already done 40, or you're doing 40?
I've scheduled 40 of them. Some of them we delivered. Some of them they're already planned in the diary.
Okay. And these are all EO chapters, or just other industries outside of EO, and companies? Are you approaching those too as well? Or?
Yeah, so doing EO, YPO, corporates. I've done some banks, private equity companies, digital marketing agencies. And also I do this thing called fractional CAIO. So
What is it?
fractional CAIO. It's a bit of a mouthful.
Yeah.
Fractional basically means part-time.
Yeah.
Part-time chief AI officer.
Okay.
So I've helped companies to help their AI strategy as well.
Okay. So has this been taking up most of your time?
At the moment, yes. So
Right.
I came out of one company, which is going from strength to strength, and now I have a new company where I'm focusing all my time on. The aim is to grow it up to a level and then delegate the whole company again.
Okay. Wow. And you've published 3 books on the topic. Is that right?
Yes.
What are the titles?
So the first book is really around comparing AI with the Industrial Revolution. Because the closest you can think about AI and growth in this way is the Industrial Revolution. So I look at comparisons between Industrial Revolution and today, what's happening. But it's the opposite, right? Industrial Revolution, people went from villages and towns, small towns, to big cities and big towns. And they started working in factories. But now it's the opposite. You're moving from big towns and cities in London and the US to smaller towns and villages and working remotely and working on using AI, for example. So soon we'll have the case of like Iron Man and Jarvis. We will have like an AI supporting us. We'll have Jarvis, hey, give me the spanner, help me with this problem. I mean, look at ChatGPT right now. ChatGPT right at the moment is a bit like your Jarvis. It helps you with stuff, right?
It's an amazing assistant.
It's awesome, isn't it? Yeah, that's been one. Number 2 is about the AI first mindset. The company is about AI first mindset. And the idea is before you embark on anything, use AI first to solve your problem. If it can't help you, then embark on technology and people. So I use AI for my work, family problems, personal issues. When I have a fight with Sue, I often ask AI, hey, how do I solve this problem? And AI has a better understand of women than I can. So it's been really helpful.
It's helped in the relationship.
Absolutely. It saved our marriage, I think, in many ways.
That's pretty amazing. So just to recap, the books, the 3 titles again?
So they're all the AI First Mindset series.
It's a series.
They all are called AI First Mindset. The first one is Industrial Revolution. Number 2 is in AI First Mindset. Number 3 is about building trust.
Building trust.
So building trust is all about, in today's world where you have so many fakes coming out, when you have, for example, every video you see can be a fake, every audio you can see can be a fake, every text you can see is somebody else. How do you build trust? I believe that there is an opportunity here to build authority by having a mix of AI and real people, but we have to make sure there's a big element of human input.
Wow, that's pretty good. And so these 3 books, did you write them kind of quickly in succession, or how long did it take you to put these books together?
Yeah. So these books were written in 1 year. I've written all these 3 books. These are very short books. They aren't like massive volumes. Yeah. Each book, they average about 50 pages per book. And the aim is it's a quick read. You can jump on a plane from here to Vietnam, you can finish one book.
Okay.
So it's a nice short read, really fun to kind of have a look around.
And how would somebody buy one of these books right now?
The book is available for free. If you go to rajgoodman.com, you can download this book. They're all available through a QR code scan, and you get the books for free. And the aim really is to spread the knowledge and education about AI. Because, again, as I said to you earlier, it's not about making money only. It's about giving back as well.
Mm-hmm. Very good. So a couple more questions. What advice would you give a young, aspiring entrepreneur or would-be entrepreneur? What would you give them if they've got an idea and they're maybe working it as a full-time job, but they really want to kind of take a chance, but they're not sure? What kind of advice would you give somebody who's not had a business before?
It's a tough one. But what I'd say is business is not for everybody. Business is for people who want to perhaps grow and be okay with the idea of working really hard and being okay to not win immediately. You will win eventually, but you just put in the hours and work smart. And it's not for everybody. But if you choose to run your own business, I've learned the hard way that raising money could be useful, but for many businesses out there, which are in the service industry, can run a business by not raising capital at all. They can actually just bootstrap their way to build a business.
Yeah, bootstrap.
So bootstrapping is a very awesome way to start a business. Doing consulting, for instance, on the side, building up the cash, and then investing in the company. For some companies, though, it's not possible. They have to raise cash to kind of do it. But for me, my business has always been about bootstrapping, and they've done really well over the years. So my thinking is that if you can avoid raising capital, start prove the concept, grow it to a level, and then most of the times you can just run the business without any capital raise whatsoever.
Yeah, that's great advice, Raj. Thank you. But you said something that's very important because you said working on your business as opposed to working in your business.
That's right.
What's the difference?
Most first-time entrepreneurs think that it's about building a business to get themselves a job. So they will do all the tasks. Like I did in Spicy Hen. Like I was doing all the tasks by myself, right? That's the worst way to build a business, right? The worst way to build a business is to do all the tasks. The way to build a business really is to build it and then delegate everything. So basically, eventually you are jobless in the company. And that's the ideal state to be.
Yeah, making yourself completely redundant.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And so if you're doing that, then in principle, you have documentation in the company about how you run a company. You have a process to run the company. You have team members who run the company, departments, strategy. And then typically that also would mean, how do you exit the company eventually? Again, if I had this book in place before Spicy Hen, I would have built the company, delegated it further. I would have built it to a much bigger company and done a proper multi-billion dollar, $1 million exit, for example, which I didn't, unfortunately. Again, I didn't know any better at that time. But you live and learn, right?
Live and learn. Exactly. Raj Goodman. This was really, really nice talking to you. Thank you for sharing. And thank you for taking the time to meet with me. And good luck with Mindset. It sounds like it's a very cool and exciting new company. Congratulations. Number 3.
Thank you, Noel. I really enjoyed the time talking with you, and thank you for the opportunity once again.
Thank you.